And an interesting thing about you is that I always notice that you have an almost like a politician's ability to look at another person's perspective as you speak to them. And it's a sort of charisma that actually we don't have anywhere else in the bodybuilding world. It's something that I think people can learn from. I don't know if it's something people are born with. You know, there's a psychological theory that this comes from early childhood trauma in which you had to quickly judge the facial expressions of someone that was very important to you. But anyway, it's very interesting. And
one of the psychological concepts that shape the way that I speak, because when I'm speaking, I'm thinking about you and how you're perceiving my message. And then I'm also trying to generalize it across a broad demographic that may be listening. Of course, if I'm one-on-one with just one person, I can convey my message in a way that exactly what's in my head is exactly what will show up in their head. And that's something that people have a hard time doing because they can't see someone else's perspective and ability to interpret that information and how you have to code that information so that they, from their perspective, can get the same message inside their head. And the first diagram I saw, and maybe it was in elementary school, was a guy with a guy's head here, a guy's head here, and communicating in a bubble on each side. And the bubble shows what's inside their head, and the message isn't necessarily what's in their head. So you have to change the message to create the actual thought in the other person's head, not just communicating the words like a robot, because us humans are going to interpret that with their own emotion and perspective.
And the interesting thing is that what I wanted to ask you, have you noticed in your years of using PEDs that or not only PEDs, but psychoactive substances, that your ability to empathize in this manner has changed a little bit? Has it worsened?
Massively. Marijuana, actually.
Yes.
I'll just give you one example. Like, my Thai girlfriend barely speaks English. She's saying English, but she's not really understanding what she's saying. She's not understanding what I'm saying. But when I'm high, I can look past the words. I can actually understand the emotion behind the words and the message she's trying to convey. I can see it from her perspective. And it's like that with anybody. And that's why what I like about marijuana is, and I'm not like a stoner that smokes all the time, but I appreciate the perspective shift when it happens, is you can get people together who normally think they're communicating because they're talking, but they're not really understanding what each other is thinking and feeling and seeing. And you can share that perspective and experience with each other. And that's actually what I like about the drug, not the being high part. And this goes back to something you said as far as like using self-help and whether it's foo-foo stuff or whether it really can make a change in your life. It depends on your intent going into it. If you're going into it with your preconceived notions and your judgments, you're just going to get the same reinforcement out for your ego. But if you go in with an open mind and able to see it from their perspective, you can have a huge perspective shift and you can learn a lot. And so I think children who aren't solidified in their way of thinking and who aren't as judgmental, and we know children can learn so fast, they can learn so fast because they come in with more of an open mind, less judgment as to the information that's coming in. And that's what I try to practice every day. And yes, there are certain drugs that help make the mind more malleable, less judgmental, and able to accept the information for what it is, not what they want it to be.